up tonight on Wolfpack All Access. The Nevada football team hits the road for Big Ten country to take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers for the first time in school history. We chat with head coach Jeff Choate to break down the game. The state-of-the-art Eric and Linda Lannes basketball building is open. We take you inside the new locker rooms and lounges for Pac men's and women's hoops. Plus, the Mountain West will look a little bit different starting in the 2026 academic year. We break down the latest round of conference realignment and what that means for the Wolfpack. Welcome to our Champion Chevrolet studios. I'm your host this week, Shannon Kelly. After a devastating loss to Georgia Southern, the Wolfpack football team would look to even its record this season in Minneapolis and match last year's win total. Mike Stephenson and Alex Margulies have more from Huntington Bank Stadium.
Welcome to Big Ten Country, Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Nevada, facing off against the Golden Gophers for the first time in program history.
All time, the Wolfpack 2-5 against Big Ten opponents. The last meeting, though, 2022 at Iowa. That was a 27-0 shutout loss for Nevada. Would it be a different story here in a first ever meeting with Minnesota? I tell you what, Nevada's defense early on up to the task, holding off the Golden Gophers on a couple different third and shorts. The first would lead to a Dragan Kesic 52-yard field goal. It put Minnesota on the board first. Nevada's offense trying to get something going, but instead something we've seen for just the first time this year. Brendan Lewis throwing an interception. It was tipped. He was hit at the line. Kerry Brown comes up with it. Golden Gophers back in action.
And Nevada's defense really held them in this game. How about Chad Brown coming up with the big tackle on third down? That was in the red zone and forced another Gophers field goal, so they just jump out to a 6-0 lead.
Again, the storyline in this one, Nevada's defense bending but not breaking early, but the offense not holding up its side of the bargain. The best drive for Nevada coming early on in this one, a 10-yard run from Savion Red, helping eventually set up Lewis through the air to Jaden Smith. This was a huge third down conversion for 25 yards, by far Nevada's best offensive play of the game. It would set up Matthew Killam from 42 yards out, but it's hit at the line and falls short. That felt like it took a lot of air out of the Wolfpack.
Yeah, it definitely did. Kept the game at 6-0 instead of 6-3. Nevada's defense would continue to hold them into this game. How about Keyshawn Cobb in the end zone, gets the interception for the Wolfpack, but Nevada could not take advantage. Instead, on the other side of the football, Lewis would throw his second interception of the game, again by Kerry Brown of the Gophers, and things would really fall apart in the first half from there.
Just a 6-0 score there, but then yes, things changed as Minnesota hits the end zone for the first time in this game. Max Brosmer for Darius Taylor. It's a 10-yard touchdown, 13-0 with just over 4 minutes left in the first half. And after a quick Nevada drive, Minnesota got it right back, and they got right back in. This time Taylor from 4 yards on the run, dragging the pack with him. Suddenly it's 20-0 at halftime.
Nevada never got into this game in the second half. The offense still sputtering as Lewis is sacked yet again. The Gophers, they continue their onslaught. How about Taylor? What a day for him. An 80-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. He would finish with 11 carries and 127 yards, 164 all-purpose yards.
The Pack at this point just trying to get something positive heading into the plane ride back home, but instead Lewis throws a third interception. Credit the defensive play from Ethan Robinson, as that would be all she wrote. The Pack falls at Minnesota 27-0.
It stings a lot because we play hard, and just when self-inflicted wounds come like that, it's just not good.
We just gotta come out this week at practice, locked in, dialed in on all the details, in the film room, all the whole week. So it's just being very detailed, and especially with a team like how we just played tonight, we can't afford to have any mistakes.
So Nevada will have to dust themselves off after this one. They had played their first 3 games very, very close and competitively. This was very different. We'll see how the team reacts as they now get ready to face off against Eastern Washington.
A win here, Alex, in Minnesota was a lot to ask for. A competitive game, maybe not too huge of an ask. Unfortunately, Nevada falls way short of that. And that'll wrap up our coverage here on the road in Minneapolis. For Alex Margulies, I'm Mike Stephenson. We'll send it back to Shannon Kelly in our Champion Chevrolet studio.
So the Pack wrap up non-conference play next weekend when they host FCS foe Eastern Washington for a noon kickoff. You can watch it live on Nevada Sports Net. Coming up next, we sit down with head coach Jeff Choate over on campus. Welcome back to Wolfpack All Access, joined on campus with head coach Jeff Choate. Coach, a tough loss for your group yesterday, and this was the first game all season that hasn't been close. Just, what was your message to the guys, and what do you hope they can take away from a game like this?
Yeah, well, I think that sometimes, you keep kind of pounding against that wall, and you have your breakthroughs at times, and sometimes that wall pounds back. And we played a really good football team yesterday, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. And I think there were some things from a coaching perspective that we could have done better, to allow ourselves to have a little bit more of a chance on the offensive side of the ball. Really proud of the effort that we had on defense. But I really think that, like when you look at the schedule, you're probably going, all right, that's the one that's going to be a hard one. We're playing 2 group of 5 teams that we should be fairly evenly matched with. In terms of talent and some of those types of things. And then you go to play a Big Ten team that's they kept rolling defensive ends, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess it's just like the last one to beat us. So, but I was proud of the way our guys competed. Unfortunately, Brendan had a tough day, man. It was, we didn't do enough from a coaching standpoint to provide protection for him. And when we did, unfortunately, we would create some explosive plays, and then they would come back with penalties. And when you're playing against long, athletic, twitchy guys, there's a physical disadvantage sometimes. And I think our guys really tried hard to play a clean game, and we've got to keep working on that. But I think a lot of that comes down to us, is putting ourselves in really good situations. And as I've said a number of times, our margin's pretty small, and we've got to do a really good job from a coaching perspective of giving our guys the best chance to win. And I was proud of the way our defense held up, forcing field goals early in the game, and we actually had some really good field position, and unfortunately we just weren't able to capitalize on that. And so it was a tough day at the office, I'll tell you that. I know one thing about it, kids are pretty resilient. They'll bounce back quick. We've got a traditional FCS power in Eastern Washington coming to town, and I think these guys that were here a year ago, they understand these Big Sky schools. This is their Super Bowl, and the effort that Idaho played with when they came here last year, and Idaho's already knocked off Wyoming this year. Fresno State had to go to overtime to beat this team a year ago, and so it'll be a challenge, but I think it'll be good to be back at Mackey, and I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of start the second half of the season, second quarter of the season really, as we go into the bye with a little bit of renewed energy.
Just how uncharacteristic do you think it was for Lewis to throw those 3 picks after he had went all fall camp without throwing a pick the first 3 games of the season, and then to let that kind of unravel there?
Yeah, I think, well, two of them I would say. The first one, obviously, he's getting hit. We've got, actually, Cortez was pretty open. We had a shot dialed up, and we just weren't able to hold up in protection. And that was kind of one of those, I don't really put that on him. I think he's going to the right place with the ball, and we've got a shot for a pretty explosive play because Cortez had a couple steps on the corner. The second one was a bad decision. The safety was down in the glance window and really shouldn't have thrown that ball. Should have come off of that one and either got out of the pocket or taken the ball somewhere else. And then the third one, if you watch that corner, man, that was a pretty spectacular play. I mean, he knew when we put Jaden in the slot, we were going slot fade, and he didn't really acknowledge the hitch that we were running with Bellin in the boundary, and just sprinted right underneath that. And I think that I really think Brennan was going to the right place with the ball. I think that was just an exceptional play and well scouted by Minnesota. And so I know he's discouraged and disappointed, but we've got to do more to support him. We've got to do a better job of scheming up the run game. We've got to do a better job of building in protections that can allow him to do the things that he's done well through the first 3 games.
Do you anticipate that, given yesterday's result, that maybe making a personnel change at quarterback halfway through might have given you guys some better rhythm?
I don't think that game was on Lou. I do not think that was on him. And in fact, we talked about going to AJ just to kind of for some preservation for Brennan. But the biggest thing that I felt like in that game was the one thing that might give us a chance was Bilou's legs. And I just think that Chubba has that skill set as well. But he's really only had 1 full week of practice since coming back off his injury, and so I think the guy competed his tail off and gave us everything he had. We moved the ball consistently in the 4th quarter, which I was proud of our guys there. And I have a hard time putting that one on him. I think that's on us as coaches, not doing a good enough job of getting him into positions where we could be successful, and we'll be better this next week.
You mentioned how stout their defensive line was. So do you think, from an offensive line standpoint, it was their scheme or their personnel, or both?
No, it's personnel. It's personnel. They didn't really do anything that we hadn't seen on film. But when this X beats this O, that there's going to be a result. Sometimes it's not going to be favorable. But by the same token, we knew that matchup was going to be challenging going into the contest. And again, we needed to have some better answers in protection. And I think we could have done some better things in the run game as well. I thought they did a decent job of kind of blitzing our formation at times, but I feel like, you know, there was still some positives from the offensive perspective, and I think we've got to, like, knowing who we are, like, we are not a team that can get into a drop back pass game. That is not our skill set. We've got to run the ball efficiently. We've got to do a good job with keeping manageable down and distances on third down, and we got to hit our shot plays when we have matchups we like.
On defense, there were some bright spots, especially early on. Henry Kahihifo had a big stop on third down. Chad Brown, big stop on third down to hold them to field goals. I guess just what is your message to the defense, you know, to keep going out there and playing hard, and hopefully the offense will come.
Yeah, and they will. And I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that they will. Here's the thing. You know, you look at it and you go, well, what are we doing? We're trying to protect our defense too. You know, they had to play 62 snaps yesterday. And one of the things that we pay attention to, not unlike Minnesota, is time of possession. And so for us to continue, even if we're not scoring points, even if we're not extending drives past maybe a first down or two, we're giving our defense a chance to get rested. We're not asking those guys to go out and play 100 snaps or 80 snaps. And even in those 62 at the end, you can tell, you know, those big offensive linemen from Minnesota were leaning on us. But I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, is build an identity around, hey, let's control the ball, let's run the clock, let's run the clock, let's do a really good job of not turning it over, try to create negative plays on defense, not hang our defense out there for a long time. And that was a huge part of this first 5 games, is figuring out what we do well. And obviously there's some things that got exposed yesterday that we don't do well. And there's positives and there's room for growth in that as well.
Coming up next, we take you inside the brand new $12 million Eric and Linda Lannes basketball building and hear from head coaches Steve Alford and Amanda Levins. Welcome back to Wolfpack All Access, presented by Champion Chevrolet. In February of 2022, the Wolfpack Athletic Department announced the largest gift from a single donor in athletics history. Now, fast forward more than 2 years later, Nevada unveiled the Eric and Linda Lannes basketball building this week. The 2-story state-of-the-art facility features identical locker rooms and players' lounges for the Wolfpack men's and women's basketball programs. We spoke with head coaches Steve Alford and Amanda Levins, along with athletic director Stephanie Remp, at the ribbon cutting.
When you've got to come up with and raise, you know, in excess of $12 million, that's not an easy thing to do. And if you're not in a community that supports basketball and understands the value of the student athletes and how great this university is, if there's no buy-in there, this doesn't happen. So for Eric and Linda to kind of get it going, and then a lot of people follow, it just means a great deal to us. And our student athletes are going to benefit, not just this year, but in decades to come. This is a decade after decade type of deal, and we're very appreciative of it.
I'll just say this does not happen everywhere, and it definitely doesn't happen everywhere for women's sports and women's basketball. And so I'm really appreciative to Stephanie and President Sandoval and even Coach Alford, because they made sure that we got everything the same as the men got, and that just doesn't happen everywhere. And I'm just, to be in a place that supports women's basketball is unique, and it's part of the reason I love being at Nevada.
This is absolutely a monumental moment in time for the history of our athletics program. What this is going to do for our men's and women's basketball program, it's a statement to the commitment we have for their success, and couldn't be more excited. Our whole community should be really proud of what is going on here. One of the players was just in there and she said, I'm never going home. I have everything I need here. So it's great. It's transformative. And the proximity of everything they do with basketball is pretty remarkable, from the weight room to the practice facility to this building to Lawler. You couldn't ask for anything better.
The men's basketball team has released its schedule for the upcoming season. The Wolfpack open up the 6th year of the Steve Alford era on Monday, November 4th, when they'll host Sam Houston. The Wolfpack will play just one true road game in non-conference play at Loyola Marymount, then host Colorado State on Saturday, December 21st, to begin a 20-game Mountain West slate. You can see the full schedule over on NevadaSportsNet.com. Coming up next, we break down the latest round of conference realignment. Who's leaving the Mountain West for the Pac-12?
On September 14th, 2013, Nevada football accepted the ultimate challenge, playing at number 10 Florida State. Things began well as backup quarterback Devin Combs, playing on a torn ACL, threw a second quarter 11-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Wimberly for a 7-3 Pack lead. Nevada trailed just 17-7 at halftime before things unraveled into a 62-7 loss. The game marked the only time Nevada football played a team that'd go on to win a national championship that season, the Seminoles topping Auburn for the crown. It also marked the only time Nevada faced off against a future Heisman Trophy winner in Seminoles quarterback Jameis Winston, who accounted for 222 yards and 3 touchdowns in the victory. 3 months later, he won college football's top prize. But in September of that season, Nevada stuck with Florida State, if only for a half.
Hi, I'm Sia Lee, and I'm with Nevada Volleyball, and I'll be answering 5 questions. I grew up on Oahu, Hawaii, on the South Shores. Dang. I gotta say Mele, her side comments be cracking me up. I would say either Alohi Robbins, Hardy, or Kalemao, because they're both from Hawaii, same area I grew up in, and they went on to play collegiate, then professional volleyball. I would want to be able to like levitate in the air. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Haikyuu, but I loved that show where they were just like up, they're like, I see the block. It was pretty cool, yeah. My go-to pump-up song is Won't He Do It by Corin Hawthorne.
Welcome back to Wolfpack All Access. Chris Murray joining me as the latest round of conference realignment has hit the Mountain West. The conference will look a little bit different come 2026, the start of that academic school year. Chris, as Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State have all accepted an invite to the Pac-12 this week, and it comes a little bit of a surprise as college football is just getting started.
Especially when you look at the financial penalties as well, between the poaching fees that will be imposed upon the Pac-12 in addition to the Mountain West exit fees for these 4 schools to leave. $115 million will be going from the Pac-12 to the Mountain West. That does set the Mountain West up strongly in terms of trying to backfill with schools, but it is very devastating news for the Mountain West, which somehow had gotten through the conference realignment of the last 18 months unscathed, but couldn't get through this week without losing 4 of its flagship universities.
It appears the Nevada Board of Regents would like to see Nevada and UNLV stick together. Many were surprised that UNLV wasn't invited in this initial round of Pac-12 expansion. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, if you're a Wolfpack fan, you like to see Nevada tied to UNLV, because for me, UNLV has a stronger case to get into the Pac-12. That Pac-12 now sits at 6 universities. They must be up to at least 8 universities by 2026 to remain a Division I conference. They probably want to get to 10 schools in total. So looking to add 4 more schools, they'll probably look to the American Athletic Conference, but they could backfill with some more Mountain West members. It would cost an additional $65 million for the Pac-12 to add 2 more Mountain West schools. If they do add 2 more, UNLV will be attractive. And like you said, the Nevada Board of Regents, some of those in that panel of 13 people, they want to see these 2 universities stay together. So the Wolfpack might be able to kind of ride the coattails of the Rebels into the Pac-12 when all is said and done.
What's next for the Mountain West and Commissioner Gloria Nevarez? They have to go out and find some schools, not a lot of time to do so.
Yeah, the first thing will be they don't want to lose any more members, so they're going to try and make that case to the remaining 7 full-time members in the Mountain West to stick with the conference and then backfill from there. You look at Montana, Montana State, they're 2 of the stronger FCS football programs. You look at Sacramento State, they've made a push to maybe get into the Pac-12 at minimum, maybe get to the Mountain West. You've got UC Davis in that region as well. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, 2 very good programs from the FCS. You could look at UTEP, New Mexico State, Idaho, but there are no sure things for sure. But like we said, the Mountain West now has $115 million to try and build a stronger conference after losing these 4 strong programs.
A very fluid situation. You can, of course, stick with us for all things conference realignment over on nevadasportsnet.com. Coming up next here on Wolfpack All Access, we'll wrap up this week's show right after this. Before we go on this week's show, men's basketball season tickets are now on sale for as low as $149 for the entire season. Just visit mynevadatickets.com or call 775-348-PACK to secure yours today, as college basketball season is less than 2 months away. Plus, the Wolfpack football team is back at Mackey Stadium on Saturday to host Eastern Washington. It's family weekend, so bring out the entire family for an afternoon of football with tickets starting as low as $20. Of course, we'd love to see you out at Mackey Stadium for a noon kickoff, but if you can't make it, we'll have the game for you live on Nevada Sportsnet and nevadasportsnet.com with our pregame show starting at 11:30 in the morning. That'll do it for us this week on Wolfpack All Access from inside our Champion Chevrolet Nevada Sportsnet studios. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Sunday night. Good night.
This has been an exclusive presentation from Learfield.